Kevin Ryan's writings can be read on 911blogger.com. Well, if Kevin Ryan has produced an easy entry-level introduction to 9/11 truth, it is still obviously extremely important that serious research continues as we uncover more and more about those attacks, even now, 9 years on. But how can new information continue to come out from events that occurred so long ago? 3 words: freedom of information. The Freedom of Information Act represents an invaluable tool by which researchers can use the processes and functions of the government agencies against them to bring details of the investigation to light. And perhaps nobody has been more prolific at filing and following through with FOIA requests related to 9/11 than Aidan Monahan. Aidan Monahan is an independent 9/11 researcher who has produced numerous reports, videos, and writings about 9/11 truth, and who blogs regularly at 911blogger.com. Over the years, he has filed hundreds of FOIA requests with numerous government agencies. Sometimes the information he is able to uncover through his requests are significant, as when he discovered discrepancies between the various flight histories of the 9/11 aircraft that have been given by the Bureau of Transportation Statistics. Sometimes the information is valuable because it shows what the government is not willing to release, as with one of his ongoing requests for information from the FBI, in which the FBI is actually arguing that all of their records related to the 9/11 investigation are in fact not subject to FOIA requests. But there is no doubt that some valuable information has been garnered over the years through this process. I recently had the opportunity to speak with Aidan Monahan about his FOIA requests and how others can join in trying to pry some of this key information out of government agencies. One of the interesting documents that have come out recently was regarding NIST and an internal document that was a rejection of request for information regarding the model that they used for their so-called computer model, which showed the collapse of WTC-7 in quotation marks. I don't know, was that you that actually put in that request, or was that another researcher?
No, those requests were the results of others. I recently followed up myself just to see what answer I could obtain, and I obtained the same answer, and that basically these files are exempt from public disclosure because they, according to the NIST director, may jeopardize public safety. And basically the whole matter has been taken away from the Freedom of Information Act and put into the hands of Congress, because Congress created the law, basically the escape hatch for NIST, to, via the director, put this information off limits.
Well, explain that process for people. How exactly are they claiming this is jeopardizing public safety?
It's basically just a very conclusory answer. They don't really explain how or why the information is believed to jeopardize public safety. It's just that around 2002, I believe, Congress created this little escape hatch for an agency such as NIST during an investigation to basically put certain information off limits if it's believed to jeopardize public safety.
Just incredible. And one of the other incredible things that your research has uncovered that I haven't seen get a lot of attention, but I thought was quite interesting when it came out, was the information that you uncovered about a company called Turner Construction and the renovations that they were doing in the Twin Towers right up till the very morning of 9/11. Can you tell us a little bit about Turner Construction?
Yes, some other FOIA researchers had gotten hold of some records regarding some projects that had been proposed in the year before 9/11 by the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, the parties who were managing the property at the time, and certain contractor names popped up in those records, and I decided to do some cross-research on some of that information, and eventually determined that the CEO of the company at that time is somebody who later became a rather close associate of President Bush himself. Later became the mayor of Dallas, Texas, later attended economic policy meetings, international economic policy meetings with President Bush overseas with other foreign heads. was appointed as a director of an organization known as the White House Fellows by President Bush. I don't recall the exact year. This is after 9/11, and who turns out today to be a neighbor of President Bush, within a couple of miles, I believe. So some interesting associations turned up there, and also the director of NIST at that time also later became. I don't recall the exact details. I would have to pull it up in front of me again in order to recall every detail. But there was definitely some interesting associations between the CEO of Turner Construction and President Bush.
That's right. And tell us about what Turner Construction was doing, or what we now don't know about what they were doing in the World Trade Center.
Right. There was a property management assessment of the property about 9 months before 9/11. And within that assessment was proposed work upon the steel supportive columns within the elevator shafts, for example, among many other things. And some of the deficiencies noted were rusting upon these steel columns and abatement of asbestos-containing fireproofing material. Removal of that was also proposed. So when one says that there was no opportunity for any unscrupulous party to tinker around within the World Trade Center, vis-a-vis the demolition or controlled demolition route, that answer would certainly seem to be false. There seems to have been ample opportunity for some unscrupulous work to have been performed there, possibly, and certainly there was significant work being done in that area. And it turns out that Turner Construction was more than likely the entity doing this work. It appears that they were working up until the very morning of 9/11 on the property, and going back as far as 3 or 4 years at least, according to some records. And also happens to turn out that Turner Construction also built the headquarters of an organization known as the Naval Sea Systems Command, which is a division of the Department of Defense. And one of their divisions, the Indian Head Naval Surface Warfare Center, just happened to be one of the only kids on the block at the time, so to speak, who were developing the energetic nanothermitic materials that were later discovered in the World Trade Center dust.
Right, absolutely. And I'm sure my listeners will be familiar with Kevin Ryan and his work looking at some of the connections of the people involved in testing and creating these nanothermitic materials. Absolutely, it just keeps going deeper and deeper. And again, very telling that apparently the records describing the work that they were doing and the projects they were doing in the World Trade Center were destroyed in the World Trade Center on 9/11, along with other key documents that we know from, for example, the Enron investigation records and things like that. So just more valuable documents that were destroyed on that day.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did ask for the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey for any records regarding Turner Construction for work done on the property, the World Trade Center, and they did advise me that all that information was destroyed on 9/11. I'm currently trying to seek some ways around that obstacle. For example, in order to perform major work on properties within New York City, one has to obtain permission from the New York City Department of Buildings and permits to proceed with work. And I've finally been able to find the Freedom of Information contact for that organization and have some requests pending, and also other requests with the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey for copies of these permits that they may have had, which may very well indicate who was performing this work there at the World Trade Center, and maybe some other information, hopefully. And those requests are pending, and hopefully we'll have those answers shortly.
Well, incredible. I certainly look forward to that, and once again would urge people to go to 911blogger.com to keep an eye on that information resource for more information as it develops on that. But Aidan Monahan, I think it's self-evident that the tack that you're taking with Freedom of Information Act requests is an extremely fruitful area of research, and you never really know what kind of information you're going to end up with. when you put out these requests, and I think that's one of the sort of wild cards that we have in this research, in hopefully getting out some of the nuggets that can lead us towards other areas of research and other things that we didn't even think to ask before. So it's an extremely effective tool, and to that end, I think maybe it would be a good idea to encourage other people to take up this tool, because obviously you're doing an incredible amount of work, but you can't do everything yourself. So tell us a little bit, walk us through the process of putting in a Freedom of Information Act request and what really goes into this whole process.
Okay, sure. Yeah, all federal agencies have access to, or basically operate through Freedom of Information Act laws. And if you know what you're looking for and you know who has what you're looking for, submitting a request is really not that difficult lately, because most agencies have gone to the electronic means of doing so. And basically, visiting their websites will allow anyone to find, eventually, without too much trouble, the links to the Freedom of Information Act officers of each agency and the email addresses for those people. And if you know what you're looking for, you can basically fire off a request within 5 or 10 minutes.
So basically, as a rule of thumb, I assume it's best to keep the requests as specific as you possibly can.
Sure. And in many cases, I found that the officers are willing to work with you. If they don't feel they have enough information, they'll contact you and ask for more. And most have been very cooperative, except for the Department of Justice. Because of everything being exempt from disclosure, they just give you very short answers and so forth. But most of the other agencies have been helpful when I've needed it.
Well, then on the flip side of that, do you think it might be fruitful to cast the net widely and then narrow it down with the help of the Freedom of Information Officer?
Yeah, I've done that specifically, and they will come back and in some cases and say we need something a little more general, or rather more specific. There haven't been a whole lot of agencies that I've really been able to focus on, because given the issue of 9/11, only so many agencies may have been associated with the event itself. The FAA, NIST, Department of Justice, FBI, Secret Service, CIA to a lesser extent.
Right, exactly. And obviously those are the places where people should be concentrating their firepower, so to speak, in requesting these documents and trying to get some of these nuggets of information out. But, well, let's step back for a moment and take a look at the bigger picture of what we're really doing here, because obviously we are uncovering some of the information that is hidden in the corridors of power that actually is there for the most part, and we're just trying to get it out to the public about one of the defining political moments of our generation. So certainly this is no trivial matter in any stretch of the imagination. And as we sit here on the brink of the 9th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks, I guess there's always the fear that although we've clearly won the hearts and minds of many of the people who have begun questioning the official story of 9/11, the political and the judicial action on that front seems to be further away than ever, and it almost seems like maybe a losing momentum. So my question is, I guess, two-part. A, how do you stay motivated and to keep doggedly pursuing these truths? And B, what do you think is the ultimate direction that we're heading at this point, and what do you see playing out from this point?
Your first question, what causes me to continue to pursue this?
Right, yeah.
Just my belief that we're very close as a movement to really connecting all of the dots here. Thanks to the research of other parties and so forth, who've all collectively connected many dots. And I just feel like the answers to a couple of very compelling topics are not too far, in my opinion. They're really not that far away. With a few more steps, I believe we can finally connect a lot of dots here that will create, a a fairly clear picture of really who was responsible for all of this.